Gold mining is a high-stakes game, and for Kevin Beets, the pressure is greater than ever. As the eldest son of Tony Beets, known as the King of the Klondike, Kevin has stepped up as a mine boss, determined to carve his own path. But his journey hasn't been easy. With a new location, an inexperienced team, and a bold strategy, Kevin has taken a massive gamble, running his operation 24/7 with a green crew. Kevin's team has relocated 100 miles away, marking a new chapter in their gold mining venture. With nearly $2 million of his life savings invested in the mine, Kevin knew there was no room for failure. However, their initial gold haul of just 33 ounces was far from the numbers needed to stay on track for their ambitious 1,000-ounce season goal. Determined to turn things around, Kevin devised a high-risk plan, introducing a night shift. The idea was simple: if the team could run the wash plant around the clock, they could double their production. But with a mostly inexperienced crew, the challenge wasn't just about finding gold, it was about keeping the operation running smoothly through the long, grueling nights. To make his 24/7 operation work, Kevin brought in new hires, including 22-year-old Caden Foote. Despite coming from a mining family and having 5 years of experience running wash plants, Caden was still new to this particular operation. His first task? Keeping the plant running through his first ever night shift. The process seemed straightforward: load the hopper, clear the tailings, and monitor the pumps. But in reality, it was a high-pressure, fast-paced environment where every minute counted. The wash plant processed 150 yards of paid dirt per hour, and any mistake could cause costly delays. Running a mining operation at night presents a host of challenges. Darkness limits visibility, making equipment malfunctions harder to detect. The isolation of the night shift means that workers must make critical decisions without immediate support. Wildlife also poses a threat, adding yet another element of danger. Running a gold mine around the clock is a daunting challenge even for seasoned miners. But for Kevin Beets, who has taken on the role of mine boss for the first time, the stakes are even higher. However, with a crew made up mostly of young and inexperienced miners, keeping the mine running at all hours was a risky endeavor. And that risk became clear when his very first full night shift ended in disaster. Kevin had placed his trust in Caden Foote, a 22-year-old miner eager to prove himself. For most of his shift, things had been running smoothly. The wash plant churned away, processing hundreds of yards of paid dirt. But then, without warning, the operation came to a complete stop. The conveyor belt, an essential part of moving gold-rich material into the plant, had shut down. Confused, Caden rushed to investigate. At first glance, everything seemed intact. The drive wheel was spinning as it should, but something was clearly wrong: the belt itself wasn't moving. As he looked closer, the reason became painfully obvious. The thick rubber belt had torn straight down the middle, completely split apart under the weight of the heavy paid dirt piling up in the hopper. When Kevin arrived, he took one look at the damage and knew there was no quick fix. Frustration was evident in his expression as he exhaled sharply and shook his head. This was bad. Caden, still processing what had happened, turned to Kevin, guilt creeping into his voice. He wanted to know if there was anything he could have done differently, some way to have prevented the breakdown. But Kevin, despite his frustration, was honest with him. The belt had already been wearing out, its cracks worsening over time. The failure wasn't a matter of negligence, it was simply bad timing. Still, the consequences were significant. Before the belt could even be repaired, the crew faced a grueling task, digging out the 12 tons of paid dirt that had built up in the hopper. When the morning shift arrived, the aftermath of the breakdown was waiting for them. The sight of the clogged hopper, buried under a mountain of dirt, was enough to sour their moods. One of the day shift crew members voiced what many were thinking: cleaning up after the night shift wasn't how they wanted to start their workday. Another, unable to hide his irritation, scoffed at the situation. It didn't seem fair to him that the night crew, responsible for the mess, got to go home and rest while they were left to deal with the fallout. Kevin, sensing the rising tension, stepped in to defuse it. He reminded them that no one was to blame. Mining is unpredictable, things break, and setbacks happen. Complaining wouldn't change that. Despite the frustration, the team had no choice but to push through. Once the hopper was finally cleared, Kevin and his crew set to work repairing the belt. It was a tedious process, cutting the damaged section, aligning it properly, and securing the new belt clips. Hour after hour passed, but finally, after 16 hours of downtime, the operation was ready to start again. And just in time. Night was falling again, and Caden was returning for his second night shift. Though he still felt the weight of what had happened the night before, he knew that the breakdown hadn't been his fault. Now, all he could do was focus on keeping the plant running. As the next morning dawned, another young miner, Hunter Canning, stepped up to take on a solo 12-hour shift. She arrived at the plant ready for the long hours ahead and immediately checked in with the outgoing night crew. To her relief, there were no major issues to report. The hopper had been running fine all night, and there hadn't been any unexpected shutdowns. With the plant running smoothly, Hunter settled into his routine. But mining is never predictable, and just when things seemed to be going well, a new problem arose. Hunter was in the middle of his shift when she noticed something was off. Nothing was feeding into the wash plant. She immediately grabbed his radio, calling out to his crew. The response was swift: shut everything down. Rushing over to inspect the system, Hunter quickly identified the issue. A massive rock had wedged itself into the conveyor, jamming it completely. Worse still, another rock had lodged itself right against it, making the blockage even more difficult to clear. She let out a frustrated sigh, knowing how much work it would take to fix this. The thought of shoveling out another load of dirt, like the crew had done the day before, was almost unbearable. But Hunter wasn't about to let that happen. Taking a deep breath, she got to work, carefully trying to dislodge the rocks. Her crew members watched anxiously, hoping they wouldn't lose another shift to repairs. After a few tense moments of maneuvering, the blockage finally gave way. The jammed rocks tumbled free, and Hunter let out a triumphant shout. Now came the moment of truth. The team restarted the plant and watched as the conveyor belt slowly came back to life. The paid dirt began moving again, flowing steadily into the wash plant. After enduring a grueling week of non-stop work, it's finally time to see if the effort has paid off. For the first time, Kevin is overseeing a gold weigh-in without his parents, Tony and Minnie Beets, by his side. It's a significant moment, one that marks his transition from just another Beets crew member to a mine boss in his own right. Despite the high stakes, the team takes a rare moment to unwind. Gathered around a campfire, the miners enjoy a brief escape from the relentless grind of mining. The crackling flames provide warmth as laughter and easy conversation fill the air. The mood is light. Someone jokes about the perfect weather for a fire, while another playfully grumbles about their constant hunger, hoping for a steak to magically appear. But beneath the banter, an air of anticipation lingers. They all know that the real reason they're gathered isn't to relax, it's to find out if Kevin's bold decision to run 24/7 shifts has been worth it. Kevin takes a deep breath, acknowledging the weight of the moment. Conducting the gold weigh-in without Tony and Minnie feels unfamiliar. There's a certain quiet to it, a chance to reflect without being overshadowed by his father's booming presence. It's different, but in a way, it's refreshing. At his side, Brennan Rualt and Faith Tang take stock of the past week's struggles. The crew has been tested, dealing with equipment failures, shoveling out a buried hopper, and working through exhaustion. Yet, despite their small numbers, they've pulled through. Kevin nods in agreement, recognizing that he has a solid crew, one capable of handling the job without needing constant oversight. Trusting them to do their work has been one of his biggest challenges as a leader, but so far, they've proven themselves. The moment of truth arrives. Last week's cleanup had been a disappointment, yielding just 33 ounces of gold. The entire operation was at risk if numbers like that continued. Now, as the gold is weighed, all eyes are locked on the scale. The numbers climb higher and higher, 46 ounces, then 70, then 90. The tension in the air is palpable. By the time the final total appears, the crew is stunned, 122.4 ounces. Worth roughly $36,000, the cleanup is a massive leap forward. In just 1 week, Kevin's decision to implement night shifts has more than quadrupled his gold haul, pushing his season total to 155.5 ounces. A sense of triumph washes over the crew. High fives are exchanged, and there's a collective exhale of relief. After struggling to get traction in the early season, this is the breakthrough they needed. Kevin allows himself a brief moment to soak in the victory. The difference from last week's dismal cleanup is staggering, nearly a 100-ounce jump. But even in success, his mind is already moving forward. If they can keep hitting numbers like this, they'll be in a strong position. For Kevin, the success is more than just a number, it's validation. The risk he took running a 24-hour operation is finally paying off. But there's still a long road ahead. With a 1,000-ounce goal looming, they can't afford to slow down now. If they want to cross the finish line before winter sets in, every shift, every ounce, and every decision will matter. And Kevin Beets is more determined than ever to prove that he has what it takes to lead his own mining empire.